Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 17 of What If Naruto Was a Legendary Neglected Uzumaki. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Had the Ultimate Nature Bloodline over an Anime King 3 and enjoy that. And I also post a brand new episode of What If Naruto Was Abandoned and Awakened a Gekigenkai over an Anime King 2. If you're new, yes, you heard all of that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last part we left off, Yugito had returned back home as she informed the Raikage about her meeting with Naruto, and with him saying that they would meet on the battlefield, even if they had to stop their fighting to go on a date. But the Raikage knew that Naruto was smart. He wouldn't exactly do that, and he wouldn't let Yugito lure him anywhere. But the Raikage also had another mission for her, even though she just came back from a mission. But she wasn't in time to say anything about his mission, she just accepted them. Meanwhile, as Naruto and Jiraiya phoned Tsunade, as she wasn't that drunk, Naruto never liked the woman from the moment that he met her. But he came here for a reason, as he wanted to look at his arm. Tsunade was shocked when she saw it, and to imagine that he wasn't in any pain because his face looked so calm, despite that was supposed to be badly hurting him. The both of them made a deal for her to come back, as they were gonna battle. As Naruto made his way outside with her, she swinged at him wildly, but Naruto used his chains to restrain her. So tight with a seal, Naruto put her to sleep forcefully, because it was his job to bring her back no matter what, as he dragged her all the way to Konoha with her wrapped up in his chains. Arriving there, she wanted to kill him the moment she got up, as Minato had to calm the situation between them. As Tsunade was pissed off though, but she saw his eyes. He was gonna fight back if she tried to lash out at him once again. But as now she was back in the village, Minato had asked her to help Naruto. As she looked over to the blonde, she would do what she can do, but the situation was unfavorable to him, given the damage that was happening to his arm as they speak. Lucky enough that big seal away so the poison did not run to the rest of his body. So with that, Naruto made his way off. Onki had hired the Akatsuki and they struck, as Fugaku and his entire unit was attacked. Minato and Itachi and Naruto made their way out there. As Fugaku was lying in a pool of his own blood, the man was dead. As they had brought 4 members of the Akatsuki, Pain had made sure that they were there. But Pain told them not to intervene, as they must leave immediately as they were causing destruction, and they fled. But Fugaku was dead. And this reek of a hidden stone, after all, they were the one that killed the sealing court Uzumaki. And now, Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan, was dead. This could not go unpunished. It was time that Konoha acted. So yeah guys, that was basically what I thought. If you guys can switch across the place, check it out for yourself. So let's begin this new episode. We begin this new episode at the Uzumaki compound, as Izumi saw Naruto. Papers were spread across the decks, but he was not focusing on them. As she sat down in front of him, she looked at him for a long minute. His fully open eyes looked at her, but she could not see anything inside of them. They were a fog of emptiness masking everything that lay within. Something troubling you, she said. As she wondered if it was about Fugaku. No, Naruto wouldn't let something like that trouble him that deeply. He had limits of how much he cared about people outside of his family. He definitely would not shed a tear for someone outside the family, and he wouldn't go as far as to defeat them. Perhaps something like that was impossible for him. I'm just thinking about life, he said. I've killed so many people. Death does not shake me. But yet, the thought of it knocking at my door does. Life is a fragile thing. To Today you're alive, tomorrow you're dead. I had never bothered to think about these things deeply. Achieving my dream was always a focus, but as the days pile up, the more I think. There are real possibilities I may not even reach that point. She tried to understand what was going on inside his head, but she could not. As usual, he was impossible to read. And his eyes, despite on full view, they were clouded. As they did not give away anything, they did not show anything inside them. They were just foggy and clouded. And the fact that he was saying these kind of things did not raise an alarm. It actually showed that he was alive. To experience these kind of things mean that he was alive. He was alive and experienced the same things that everyone else experienced. She was happy to indulge in this conversation. Do you doubt your ability to make things happen? Well, that has never been the case, she thought to herself. No, not at all, he said. Once you doubt yourself, you doubt your strength, and you slowly lose faith in your ability. Doubt is a disease that will give crack to the birth of your faith. I have no doubt, but we must be realistic. Perhaps I've been running away from reality so far, because things is easily going my way. In what part, she asks, you can no longer manipulate chalk in your left hand. Do you really think that means things are going your way? That has been the only disturbance. Everything else is going smoothly, he said. Perhaps, but the only thing that gone wrong is serious. It can ruin your dreams, but you seem to fail to grasp the gravity of your condition. But reality make it much clearer. I don't really understand everything that goes on in your head, so I can't really say much. Naruto opted to ignore her for a moment. I wonder, what would be my legacy right now if I die right now, he said. I don't exactly have a good reputation, but I'm known. Despite everything it seems I'm still far behind my father. People are certainly willing to talk and praise Itachi more than they will do for me. Enemies of Konoha will talk about me in their dark little corners. But that is not concerning. I'm not just satisfied with being known to my enemies. I want something more, maybe. I want to live as well. Your parents will be ecstatic when they hear that you want to live, she said. How do you plan to get around that though? You have caused damage in the hearts of people. Some of it cannot be forgotten. He shrugged. At least they will have a memory of me. I have positioned all the pieces for the clan to move into a different level. It is just foundations, but more trouble in time are coming, he said. You have a council meeting soon, she said. She actually came here to inform of the meeting. Naruto sighed. I really don't like those meetings, he said. Time skip. Council chambers. Minato looked at the clan heads with a hardened expression on his face. There was great injustice being done against Leaf Shinobi, and it's time that they put on their battle gears and fight against it. They could not allow other villages just walk over them. Revenge was not the thought, but they could not allow sins to be unpunished. When they did nothing, the others saw it as a sign of weakness. Konoha was not weak, it was powerful. This power was why this village was able to stand as the greatest through the generation. Fugaku had been a friend, an important figure through Konoha. He could simply not allow this to slide. It was a massive hit on the hidden leaf, and this action could not go unpunished. I have been trying to play peaceful for long enough, said Minato. He was rather grateful that the elders were no longer allowed in these meetings. They would have been saying something like, we told you long ago to take action. It had certainly gotten worse, but if they had fought earlier, they wouldn't have a chance of winning. But the situation now suits them better. But apparently, my peacefulness has been seen as weakness on my part from our enemies. I have called you here because we need to take a decisive action, knowing that we're going to war soon. I was thinking that we could avoid it, said the third in a tired tone. Well, we have already started preparations for it. Hayashi nodded. We just need to work out strategies, because the major threats will be the Stone and Kumo. The two villages are working together, and we know it. To be able to combat their military power, we need to act incisively. Not to mention, both villages have a combined force of 4 Jinchurikis, while we have none. But it can't be that they will attack at the same place, at the same time. If they attack at the same time at different places, spreading out their Jinchurikis, it will be difficult on us, said Tsunade. As her eyes glanced towards Naruto for a moment as usual. He was sitting there looking like he was daydreaming. She wondered why the ready had even come. Because he wasn't interested at all. He didn't even look like he was listening. I know that the Jinchurikis will provide a major threat to the villages if they are to be released. We had counted on the Uzumaki last time to deal with the threat, but we can no longer do that anymore. We have to come up with an effective plan to deal with the threat. But I believe we can handle it. It may prove difficult, but we can do this, said Minato. Chosen nodded in agreement. We have to believe we can do this, he said. But first we must solve this problem, brought down to us by the Akatsuki. This attack is serious and we cannot move on without diving deep into it, said the third. And we will be making a mistake not counting them as an enemy, because we don't know if they will start again. The others nodded in agreement. Shikaku was the first to voice his thoughts. We know that you're a mercenary group, and they have worked with both the stone and the sand. We can rule out the sand from the attack, We just have to narrow it down to the stone and Kumo. The most likely village would be the stone. I just can't see the Raikage working on something like that. His past actions have been bold and daring, said Sarutobi. Even so, we must act with proof. We don't know much about the Akatsuki and we cannot prove that the third Uchiha hired them. We have allies and people that look up to us. We cannot be seen as the ones provoking a fight. And those villages, we might need help from them after the war is over. If we're gonna look into the matters, how about we have the Uzumakis use their resources for the good of the village? The word was met with complete silence. It wasn't that everyone did not know. They knew, but only clan heads and military officers spoke about this. Jiraiya-sama intel has always been up to top and on point, and he has never failed us before. I am not taking anything away from him, but we can all agree that it would be more effective if the Uzumaki took part. No, if they start to show us the intel that they have. Hayashi nodded with a stern face. So far, they have been focusing on providing the military police force with information regarding what is happening inside the village. But we are not as naive to think that they don't know what is going on outside as well. Sarutobi glanced towards Naruto, the redhead, had yet to even flinch, despite them talking about his clan. As Sarutobi was curious, then, what does Uzumaki have to say? Sarutobi asked, as all eyes turned towards him. We have already started the investigation. We don't know if we'll get the results, but I'll leave the village in 3 nights to collect some information, he said. You can't leave the village then, Naruto, said Minato. You have a guess. The Mizukage will be coming in the next days. As Naruto gave the man a look, Minato simply smiled. We will talk about that after the meeting. You didn't talk to him about it, said the third. He shook his head. Can we expect the information soon? Yes, said Naruto. Konoha will have to pay for the expenses though. This is no time for greed, Uzumaki. Tatsumi snapped at him. Naruto turned his head towards her. Do you even understand the term greed, woman? His tone was cold, ice cold. We get paid for the maintenance of the barrier around this village, but we don't get paid for any other thing. You don't understand how much we spend for these resources. Sometimes we have to buy to know. As much as we like to offer our services, we can't bear any more costs. Well, considering that you have started that big project in Uza, it is reasonable to say that the clan needs some kind of income. The Sealing Corps was the one that specialized in seal to pay for their services, but now they're no longer there. And not to mention the clan has their great burden by providing for the orphanage and all the other charity work. The clan also has to be sustained as well, said Fugaku. How much do you really spend a month? A couple millions every month, said Naruto. That much? If the village is going to be paying that amount of money, there has to be accountability. We need to know what is happening and how the money is spent. Or the resources should be for the Hokage to control, said Hayashi. You're ridiculous, said Naruto. If this village needs its own services, it can create its own intelligence services and fund it. I won't complain, but what is Uzumaki will remain Uzumaki. Even if the Hokage is part of the Uzumaki, I will not allow it. Minato sighed. He had to intervene. Konoha will meet you halfway. This should be fair enough if we're not gonna know how the money is spent. But you must hand me your budget. It will only be from my eyes. Fine, said Naruto. We have handled that part. But what are we gonna do when we gain information? Asked Hayashi. The Akatsuki will be placed in our bingo books, and all of our shinobis will be made aware of them. If they are sighted somewhere, we will go after them. If they weren't powerful SRN criminals, I would have instructed a hunt for them, said Minato. And the village that is found to be responsible will face the consequences. More things will be discussed once we have physical evidence. I am more worried about the Jinchuriki problem we face, said Choza strongly. We all saw what one Biju can do, and those other villages know that we have experts when it comes to seal, so they will come prepared. And I need to know something that can make me sleep better at night, or to convince me that we have some sort of plan, or we will be doomed. As Hayashi was one to speak up, the Uzumakis had been tasked with this, and even without Sealing Corps, I think you should come up with the tools. How about teaching the art to a few select students who show promise? The Hokage is a prime example that you don't have to be a Uzumaki to be efficient with seals. If you're not gonna do that, then at least tell us your thoughts. Uzumaki this, Uzumaki that. Don't you get tired? Are you not capable of doing anything without the Uzumaki? This village was saved because of Uzumaki. The Hokage learned the seal from the Uzumakis. And you still want the Uzumakis to play another vital role, said Naruto. If the decisions were up to me, I would find the locations of all Jinchurikis and keep civilians on them. When they say the war have started, I would move to disable them before they get a chance to attack. What I come to note is that they are dependent on the power of their Bijus. If you remove that aspect, you can easily kill them off. and the war will be much more easier. Shikaku smiled. If you remove their biggest weapons, you gain a big advantage. These nations have other ways to fight, but removing their Jinjukis before they get to use them will be something they did not think about. They will have to strategize in the middle of war, and the morale of their ranks breaking, knowing that their biggest guns have gone down. The question is, are we brave enough to sanction that move? It is without question that we have to do it, Hayashi was quick to say. Timeskip, Hokage's office. You could have warned me that you had such a thought, and then we could have planned it without getting everyone involved, said Minato as he looked towards Naruto. It never came to mind, though I'm surprised you are willing to make such a move. It is very unlike you, said Naruto. I have been into war. You cannot fight a war beautifully. War is war. There is no other way to put it. I'm not doing anything underhanded. This is just a way to save Konoha life. True, I want peace, but I will not forgive my decision if I allow myself to jeopardize Konoha future. While I'm acting as Konoha Hokage, I must always think of the village best interests. But you still won't compromise your principles for victory. It will be a pity that I'll have to go against Yugito, but still, it's necessary. Then, what is this about Mizukage, said Naruto. Minato thought of ways, but all of them came up wrong when he looked towards Naruto. Karin. He had thought about her, but when he looked at her innocent eyes, he decided to keep her out of it. He could not find a good way to say it, so he just gonna come out with it. He's come here to discuss your marriage with her. I negotiate with her and we decide to go along with the marriage. It doesn't have to be real, even if it is fake. I am okay with it. Whether you want it to be real or not, it will depend on you. But it will be on paper. We still have to make it look real though. This is why she's coming here to discuss things with you. You may have to stay a couple days in care to make it look legit. If people know that it's not real, they might act. As Naruto simply stared at Minato for a long minute, he didn't utter a single word. He then finally spoke. If you were not my father, I would have said no. Even so, this is the least I can do for your dream. I appreciate it, said Minato with a smile. You're the one who stands beside me in everything. No matter what people say, you're always there to defend my name. I have not been living according to the script. Perhaps it was because I desired to live different from you, said Naruto. Maybe. But regardless of everything, you're still my son. Perhaps I failed on some things, but failing to stand by you would be my greatest failure, said Minato. Are you going to be with the Uchihas, he asks, next your stone. This is a difficult time for them, and after everything, I think it would be good if you're there, for support. I know you can't offer much in terms of emotional support, but you being there will mean a lot. But they're not in grieving mode, said Naruto. Their emotions are wild at this stage. Fugaku commanded a lot of respect for his clan. They will go wild if nothing is done. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them went rogue, take their revenge. We will try by all means to stop it. What are you gonna do tonight? Sleeping, said Naruto. Tsunade wasn't able to look at my hand yesterday. She will look at it at noon and later on do an operation. I will be crippled then. I can't move out to them like that. I also have much to do for the clan, and think about what my next move will be. And there's also the Uchiha. What about Danzo? What are you planning? Asked Minato. Times are hard now and Konoha need all the manpower can get. With this in mind, I have to isolate Danzo, get rid of him. His root forces would be revolt. If anything, they would be lost without your master. You can figure something out after then. But you need to justify your actions, Naruto, said Minato. He has committed an action punishable by death, by attacking the clan head. I am like this because of his actions. Is that not reasonable? What I mean is that we need something more tangible. We have to be legitimate in everything that we do. If we can't be like that, people will start to question our motives. We need tangible evidence to show. When people come with their questions, you should know. Your word will not be good enough. And even if I do back you up, people will say, it's only because I'm your father. But if you present real evidence in front of the council, you will also have the council approval as well. It will be like a mission, an S-rank mission, said Minato. The council will then decide what it will do with Root Anfu. In times like this, we cannot trust Danzo at all. He will plot to complicate things. I don't need him to add to the problem. My search will be complete soon. I might have to leave before the Mizukage come here though. We're searching for someone that might lead us into the truth. If we find him, I'll have to leave in a hurry to get to him, said Naruto. If it happened in that order, we would deal with it, said Minato. Naruto said nothing further as he got up and leave, walking through the door. Minato blinked. Did Naruto just use the door to leave his office? Time skip. Unknown location. It was an odd feeling the Raikage felt in this environment, and the situation that surrounded him. He was meeting in secret with the third, Tsunade. Normally, they would just speak through letters, but now the time has come to put things into motion. They had to work on a plan because of the recent actions from the Hidden Stone. Of course, if Konoha came out with his weapons blazing, the Raikage would deny everything. Oniki had planned the assault on his own, and the Raikage did not pay a cent to the Akatsuki. It was all Oniki. And A did not like the organization. He would rather get rid of them instead of using them. Perhaps he would only use them when it would be obvious that they would be killed when he sent them out on a mission. Konoha should be shaken by this event. We can confirm that Fugaku Uchiha is dead, along with some people. Were you able to confirm it as well? Yes, the Raikage said. He knew that Onki also sent his people to observe the battle. See, said those people had disappeared when the fourth Kage appeared in the battlefield. Certainly if they were caught there, Minato would have linked them to the stone and retaliated. I wonder how Konoha will react. We have been pushing and pushing, but they refused to make the first move, said Onki. He was frustrated that Minato would not ignite the war. Minato is cautious and I doubt. He wanted to be remembered as the man who started the fourth Great Shinobi War. At this point, it is safe to say that he won't do anything extreme. We have military advance over Konoha. They would want to see how we move, to analyze and decide their forces for our upcoming battle though. We have reduced their power, the Uzumaki have been lowered to just a name, and we have cut off the head of the Uchiha. It's not a bad idea to advance now, but first we must discuss how we will move along. We cannot act separately. I will not underestimate Konoha and risk losing the war. This is my last chance, and if I lose this one, Konoha will remain as the strongest. We have the military power to seal the victory. As far as my intel is concerned, Konoha doesn't even have a Jinjulki. We have 4 and all of them get transformed into full Bijus, but we can't rely on them, said A. Yes, it would be a fatal mistake if we were to depend on them alone. We have to think of a smart way to use them, said Onki. If we use them recklessly, Konoha would disable them before they can do any lasting damage. For now, it will be best to keep them hidden. I have already located a place to hide mine. I suggest keep this location a secret to everyone. Even when we deploy them, it will be something only communicated to us. If we hit them when they do not expect it, we will pin down their forces and push them back to their village. And then we can pick them apart when they are in one place. Timeskip, 2 days later. Uchiha compound. As Naruto was sitting behind the main house, with Itachi beside him, they were watching Karin spar with Sasuke. It was one of those moments when they allow the young ones to play, and then they award them with a meal. The children always try to demand a sparring session between the adults, but they never got it. After a moment of talking, Naruto suddenly spoke about something else. We have found the bait, and I'm going to collect. It will be difficult, but at the end of the day I will bring back valuable intel that will be useful to your clan and to the village, said Naruto. As he got to his feet, send my apologies to your mother for leaving at such a difficult time, but it cannot be helped. I'm sure she will understand, said Itachi. The next morning, as Naruto feels his left hand, it felt brand new. As he never thought there was Tsunade medical ninjutsu before, but he knew that she was the best. But still, she didn't like him, and she told him that she would crush it to pieces if he pissed her off again. Well, she could do it because she had to look over it once again to see how his chakra system was reacting to the fixed hand. At the moment though, he was in the forest of the sound. He was on a tree branch, waiting for someone. I had a feeling that someone was watching me, but despite my best attempts, I could not catch a person, said Kabuto as he looked up. But when I heard you cross the borders last night, I decided to rush back to Orochimaru-sama. I never expect you to be here waiting for me. Kabuto knew that he could not beat Naruto. Rushing back to his master was the best bet for him. As Naruto jumped down, we have been looking for you, Kabuto. You're quite slippery, but our eyes cannot lose a target once we have locked on. What have I done to warn your interests? Perhaps you're here to kill me, but that would be unfavorable right now. I do not have an army, and considering that wouldn't mean much against you. Have no fears, I'm not here to kill you. I'm merely here to use you for something that would be beneficial. I'd rather you not make much noise because if you do, the condition you'll be left in won't be favorable to anyone. I have to admit your words frighten me a bit, but I can't just lie down and let you do as you please. Disappointing, said Naruto. He held his right hand as his blade appeared. Without warning, he moved. Kabuto had to move as the ear, right where his face was sliced. As Naruto moved, before Kabuto could even set down. Damn it, he's fast, Kabuto thought. Kabuto knew that he was fast, but he never thought that Naruto was this fast. As Kabuto flinched, Naruto grabbed his right hand and yanked him towards him. Naruto's sword was gonna pierce right through his chest because he was being yanked. Kabuto held out his left hand as the sword pierced right through his palm, as he used that to stop the momentum, but Naruto pushed him back and pulled his sword. The moment Kabuto realized what was going on, Naruto was already hovering in the air as a brutal kick smashed across Kabuto's face. He was sent sailing like a bullet as Naruto vanished and reappeared behind him and grabbed him and slammed him face first into the ground. Kabuto's hand got covered in chakra as he swinged it right towards Naruto's face. As Naruto's blade came down sliced, Kabuto jumped back, blood spraying everywhere. I think I explained this to you. My father played a brutal game of tag with me. For years, I tried to catch him with his Harashin, until one day I moved so fast I was able to catch him before he could teleport. My reflex, my speed, my senses on the battlefield are second to none. So tell me, would you like to go back to Konoha without any other body parts in order to axe? Kabuto cursed, but the last statement, he remembers something. Going to Konoha, those people could get into his mind. Kabuto twisted around, but next moment he did. Naruto shoved his hand right into his mouth and grabbed his tongue. You probably realize I want to go into your mind. Must be a lot of information inside. Kabuto tried to scream as Martin spread from his mouth, on his tongue to be exact, going around his head. Unbearable pain went around his head as Naruto applied the seal, as he felt like his brain was being forcefully shut down, despite the chakra he pumped into it. It wasn't doing anything. Time skip. Uchiha compound. Somewhere under the main house, a body was laid to rest in a dark room. Eyelids then flashed open. The left one had a crimson eye inside of it that glowed dangerously. Time skip. As Kabuto's mind stirred, as he regained consciousness, as he remembered what last happened, as he tried to move, but he could not. He could not move his legs because he could not feel them as he looked down. He did not see anything. Kabuto was shocked. He didn't have his feet. He didn't remember Naruto had cut them. He could not remember the memory like it was yesterday, because he didn't know how much time has passed since he was out. He had seen so many severed bodies in his time with Orochimaru, but he never thought he would be in this kind of situation. But acting all dramatic would just be stupid. You're weak, said Naruto. Kabuto turned his head slowly. As you can see, he said calmly. He could not see Naruto though. The room was dark and cold. Obviously, they were underground. He doubted that he was even in Konoha. He knew almost everything about Konoha. After all, he's been a spy here for a long time. My first thought was take you to Orochimaru, with all of your body parts sealed together beside you. But that would be stupid. Orochimaru wouldn't think of you as a fair trade for us to get what we want. Kabuto was confused. Ever since they met up, Naruto has been saying weak, but Kabuto did not sense anyone else. He shook that off. That wasn't the important part right now. He knew that he could not catch Naruto off guard and run for it. He didn't have legs. He needed to play a mental game to escape here. If he did not, he was gonna die. You don't need me alive to get information out of my head. Why, am I still alive? You have done all this to me. But I think if I was cooperative, you would have found another way to get the information. I cut off those pieces of flesh because you refused my options, said Naruto. If you're willing to give me what I want in exchange of survival, I would have accepted. But now, there's nothing that's going to be changed at this point, said Naruto. The redhead was trying to say that he didn't care what he said now. But then why was he still alive? There was always a way to do what you want and get what you want. And Kabuto slapped his mouth so he can still talk, and he would find a way out of here. If I'm going to die in the end, why am I still alive, he asked. Your existence is only for a short period of time, said Naruto. I attach a seal to you that is connected to your brain. We cannot look through your head because we do not think the jutsus, but making you talk through pain is another way. But you work with a masochist, so pain isn't real much to you, is it? But in the end, we will get what we want. Kabuto was confused. There was again, we. What was he talking about? Who was we? There was no one else there. I actually lied, said Naruto. The seal work a different way. We will get everything out of your head, and then we will send you to the Yamanakas, where they will get what they want. Well, what we want them to see. And then you will be killed. This conversation of ours will never happen, because it won't be in your head. Time skip. Root base. Danzo frowned as he received messages from Orochimaru. It has been 24 hours since Naruto left the village, and Orochimaru was already sending an alarm message. Kabuto had security measures in his head to avoid mind readers from getting inside, but you could not rely on that when dealing with the Uzumaki. And now Naruto had Kabuto, and there was things that Kabuto knew, well, about Danzo, things that he was mixed up with, that if Minato knew, he'd be coming for his head in a second, and Danzo could not allow that. Of course he couldn't. That would just be troublesome on his part. What to do? The answer was not simple right here, because if he allowed Naruto to get to the village, he was screwed. Yes, he was screwed, because Naruto wasn't back yet, but he had Kabuto somewhere. But if he doesn't do anything, he would be killed same way. Damn it, what to do? There was nothing that he'd use to blackmail the redhead, not a damn thing. Threats hadn't been capable in the past, because he did not care back then. Perhaps things have changed now. Should he try to kidnap someone? That would certainly make the redhead behave, but his dislike of him would grow, and perhaps he would get Hokage involved. Knowing Minato, everyone in Uzumaki or close to the main family had a harassing on them, and they were always in a damn compound. And those who left the compound stood out from the rest of the villagers. He could go out to meet Redhead himself at the outskirts of the village. No, Naruto wasn't a person that you could back against the corner. He would retaliate dangerously. In you, Danzo said. Have this place cleaned up. Nothing must remain. Yes, sir. As the envoy knew where this was going. Meanwhile, Fugaku's office. Minato could not understand why Hayashi keep on saying that the Byakugan's bit on the Sharingan. No, it was not, because here Fugaku stood, in the flesh. The man was alive. A man who had been killed was back alive. None of the elder Uchihas were surprised, they were just happy to be able to deny death. But using a cause of one of their eyes. Was there any other eyes that could do that feat? No, he didn't believe so. The man had lost sight to one of his eyes, but he was back alive. As Minato shook his head, Naruto probably won't even blink when you greet him. Well, nothing really surprises him, especially given his understanding of the Sharingan. There was no one alive who knew more about their dojutsu than the Uzumaki, Redhead. He knew many things, good thing he didn't go around sharing that information, and no one can get it out of his head. If anyone tried to read his mind, but that was just a suicide mission. But that is not the important matter here. Those guys who attacked me, they were sent by Onki. While Kakazu didn't want to talk, his partner, Idan, was more than happy to say anything. He was confident that I would die. Well, I did die in the end. How did it happen? Well, this Idan, he is immortal. There's no joke in that, Minato. He cannot die no matter how much time I stab him. Hit him with scorching fire jutsus. He got back up. Even after the other two arrived, I could have escaped, but Hidan, he took my blood. As the man went on to explain everything to Minato. This organization is more troublesome than I thought. Yes, I doubt Onki even know the full extent of their abilities. How much do you know about them? Asked Fugaku. Not much. I know they're S rank. Organization. I don't even know their leader, but he must be powerful to control a group like this. As Fugaku nodded in agreement, he wasn't able to gain that much information in their battle, but it was not a group that could be underestimated. What are we gonna do about them? Asked Fugaku. We don't know much about them, it's best to say that we don't know anything about the organization. We just have a few names, but no locations, no agendas, nothing. Jiraiya is digging into it for information. I have sent messages to our allies to inform us of information. Given that there is so much unknown about the organization, I have not put in an official team to hunt them down. Nevertheless, in case we hear anything, my son, your son, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Guy, and myself will take on the group. Fugaku thought about it as he nodded. It is acceptable, he said. Given what they had, he could understand the situation. There was nothing he could do until they find out more about the organization. What about Onki, said Fugaku, his lone eye looking at the Fort Kage. Naruto should be returning by day end. We will discuss it then with the rest of council members. I don't care what action has to be taken now. We're already at war with the village. At this point, nothing else can change it. But at the end of the day, they all will have to pay. Minato refused to comment on it. Their forces should be moving soon enough. Your clan will be essential in this war. But I would like to minimize our casualties as much as we can. I will hold a meeting, but we're much more motivated to fight than ever before. Said Fugaku. Time skip. Uchiha compound. Making Inabi the senior for the police force had been a correct decision. No one was making a bad move because of his sudden demise. With Itachi had done better, he could not tell. There was still a lot his son needed to learn. Overall, he had no doubt over his son's intelligence. Minato said that Naruto has gone out of the village, said Fugaku. As Itachi nodded, he is going to collect some information. I assume about the Akatsuki involvement with you. He said that he will be investigating on what happened. When we came out to fight on the battlefield, he said that he would risk his life to fight the Akatsuki. Minato told me, I have to say I was surprised though, said Fugaku. We haven't been getting along recently, and I thought I'd become nothing to him, despite everything I've done. But it seems like he understands them and took them despite everything. I know I just came back from the dead, but this is the best time to talk about things. I understand, Itachi said. You need to prepare yourself for leading a clan. I will give you responsibilities, even throughout the war. You already have a respectful place in the village, but you're still young, and do not have much experience in leading. Naruto is already a leader. When things start to fall into place, people will notice his leadership qualities and forget things that he has done in the past. He has turned on a new leaf people are noticing, because he's Naruto. In all the years I've known him, he has never displayed any interest to become Hokage. But people are starting to see his role in reviving back the Uzumaki clan, and they might vouch for him to become the next Hokage after Minato. I don't hate Naruto at one time. I saw him as my son, but I would like you to become the 5th Hokage. We Uchihas have been overlooked in the past because of our misjudgment between the clans and the villagers. Now we no longer have that problem. If we don't seize the opportunity, the problems of the past will resurface in the future. I don't want to take over the village, but I want the Uchiha to finally become Kage, or we will never be at peace. Itachi thought about everything so far, even the Uzumaki clan. It will grow a lot after the war, and Naruto's name will grow as well, because he was the clan. Tell me, father, if it was up to the clan heads, would they vote for Naruto to be the Kage? No, said Fugaku. Later that night, as far as she could see, Mei could say that she was privileged to be walking around the Uzumaki compound. She had talked with some people, and she heard that getting inside wasn't easy. And besides, if you did, there was a path that was created for the people that was the viewers, and things that they should not see. To think that the villagers didn't even know the inside of the compound, well, that was kind of ridiculous. But everyone needed their privacy. But this was just a bit over the edge. She was given a tour in the compound. Perhaps it was because she was only going to be married to him. The redhead was on some important business, he wasn't here. She didn't want to think that it was much more important than her. That would just give her mixed feelings. Your orphanage looked like a boarding school for the elite, said Mei. As she was walking with Izumi, there was no guards, just the both of them. As the guards were at the hotel, her safety was in the hands of the Uzumakis. We prefer the best in everything. We're a prestigious clan after all, she said. Everything that is ours must not be half-baked. It must be better than good. I wouldn't go as far as to say perfect, but we do strive for perfection. Well, I do understand why Naruto is taking risks to make sure the clan finances are secured. What can you tell me about the clan itself? There seem to be many interesting things going on around here. It does seem to be slightly empty though. Izumi did not deny that. There wasn't a lot of them because most of them were dead. It used to be lively and full of energy back then, but there's a few of us now, she said. Even so, there are days when these streets are filled with children. Most people are at work now, and the children, they're in class. As Mei looked around, everything that she saw so far looked normal, and Izumi would not give her any information that she should not receive, so she did not bother Roman any further, knowing that she would not get any answers. Besides, she didn't want to leave the impression that she was prying. When they arrived, Naruto was already there, in front of a small podium. I was beginning to think that I would leave the village without seeing you, said Mei, as she settled down. She hadn't come here for him only. There was other matters that she had to deal with the Konoha Council. He was included, but he wasn't here for the meeting. I am sure that you were informed that I was out on important matters. Recently, Konoha forces were attacked by the Akatsuki. I was out trying to gather information about the attack. As he then turned towards Izumi, was our guest treated with care? Izumi nodded. How's things on your end, she asked. Fine, I brought back the brain. Inoichi is busy going through it. I'm sure soon enough they will call me for a council meeting. Go to the academy and fetch Karen. Once you have her, the compound will be on lockdown. Izumi was curious. It wasn't what Naruto was saying alone. It was the fact that she was leaving him with that woman. Naruto was supposed to get married with her. But it bothered her. But she could not voice her thoughts about it. And he did not ask about her opinion on the matter. She nodded and left. Is there something happening, said Mei. There's a 1% chance that the village might be rocked by a civil war, said Naruto. We have some inner problems that we have to solve. And this clan might face some dangers because of the retaliation of the subject. Though the chances are low, it does not hurt to be extra careful. Mei was surprised that he told her this. After all, it sounded like a village secret. Everything looks calm, she said. The fighting might happen to the villagers. Being unaware of it, said Naruto calmly. But nothing is happening as we speak. And also I'm tired, and there is you. Well, I can afford to wait for another day, she said. Sort note village problems come first. It will be worthless for us to engage in a decision if there is no village to protect, said Mei. We will not talk about the marriage thing now. Perhaps tomorrow or later on at night. I'm just here to say that I know that we must talk, said Naruto. Do you have anything that you'd like to ask regarding my clan? Mei took her time to respond. Why do I feel like an outsider in this compound? I feel like I don't belong here. Because you don't. For now at least. After the Kaiba went on a rampage, the villagers start to discriminate against us. We were the host of the Biju, and they decided to direct their hatred towards us. The barrier, it separates us from the rest of Konoha. It was another intention of creating it, said Naruto. Mei listened intensely before responded. It's apparent that the hatred of Bijus were everywhere, not just only Konoha though. But things have changed now, said Mei. From what I've seen so far, nothing ever remained the same this war, said Naruto. Both the Uzumaki and Uchihas are no longer escape routes. But we insist on keep barrier around the compound. Does bother some people. Small amount, so we don't have any complaints. Time skip, council chambers. Minato cleared his throat to draw the attention of the clan heads. We're all staring at Fugaku. He was a source of attention here, after all. Everyone confirmed that he was dead and now he was alive. Hayashi could admit that he was envious. Those accursed eyes made the Byakugan look ordinary. The Uchiha Sharingan could do so many things. So much inhumane human things. And it made him feel jealous. Nevertheless, now was not the time for those kind of thoughts. About an hour ago, Naruto returned back to the village with Kabuto. Well, at least, what was left of it? Inuichi and his team took care of gathering information from his head. He has already briefed me on the details, but we will discuss it at large here. Inuichi, if you will. Before Inuichi could say anything, the Aberme clan head spoke. How do we know that the brain wasn't tampered with? Although they might not want to show it, the Uzumakis are capable of many things. Besides, I found it difficult that they would give everything without taking a look themselves. Well, that was understandable. The Uzumaki was known as a clan that wanted to know all things. So to get so much information and not look at it was, well, abnormal. You do raise a good point, said Shikaku, but this is not a good time for that. Besides, if they had supplied the information to us without giving us evidence, we might have found it difficult to believe. This way coming from Inuichi, we won't have any intention of saying that it's foul play. The others agree on that. Then can we get on to it, said Fugaku. Some of us has other matters to deal with. You're impatient for a man who just returned from the dead, said Hayashi, but Fugaku simply ignored him. Inuichi, if you may, said Minato. Thank you, Hokage-sama, said Inuichi. Naruto informed him that he weakened defense of the mind, so the information was rather easy to extract. We were able to extract some valuable intel about Orochimaru, his dealings with Danzo and Onki. We have all the information to confirm that Onki was one that hired the attack on Konoha. Before the man could go any further, Hayashi spoke. Well, that settled everything. How did Kabuto know though? Apparently, Onki was dealing with him. Kabuto was giving Onki information about us. Orochimaru wanted to get his hands on the Sharingan without getting them dirty first. What have you decided, Minato? Said Teratobe. As it was up to Minato seeing that he was a Kage. Honestly, I don't know. Every action that we should take against that village has to be extreme. It doesn't agree with my consciousness, but it has to be done. We simply cannot condone such behavior from another Kage, especially when we do nothing to deserve it. I will call a Kage meeting to officially declare war on the Hidden Stone. In the meantime, no. Stone Shinobi will be able to enter the Fire Nation and win. No supplies from our border nation will reach the Hidden Stone. Of course, the war can be put on hold if this guy come here to face execution, but he wouldn't do that, so we will go into war. Minato came to a stop when a masked red head flashed behind Naruto and whispered in his ear. What's the meaning of this, Uzumaki? Tasumi said. We don't have this in his chamber. This is a neutral ground that... She was cut off as Naruto's eyes flashed towards the woman. As she shut up, you have to excuse me. There's an urgent matter I have to attend to, he said. And he was gone. What the hell just happened? I suspect it has something to do with Danzo, Inuichi said. I'm sure by now he know that we got into Kabuto's head. And he should be worried, considering that he has something to do with the Sealing Core demise. Time skip. In the unknown location, out of everyone I've dealt with, you're the one that speaks to me the most. But I'm sure that you're here for something, said Grandma as Naruto jumped down. You and I are gonna sign a contract. And in terms of making you breathe some fresh air, and also, you will fight by my side, said Naruto. Kurama laughed. None of the Uzumakis are willing to use my power. Will you break the tradition? He asked. Unfortunately, I don't have time to chat. Are we gonna do this or not? Well, I'm tired of sitting around this place. If I get a chance to go out, I'll take it. Besides, it's just increased chance of my escape. Would you like to do things my way? No. My way is more simple, said Naruto. Meanwhile, at the root base, Naruto had made sure plans because he knew that Danzo would try anything to avoid his death. His sister was safe because he sent Izumi to get her, but the man got his hands on Izumi. This was just like what he did all those years ago, back then. He appeared that he didn't bother him, and Izumi was safe. But now this was different. Izumi did everything for him and she was important to him. He would be lost without her. This really reminds me of the incident in the Forest of Death. All those years ago, said Naruto. His tone was calm. Danzo was a couple of feet away from him, with Izumi in front of him, as he was using her like a human shield. Circumstances are different now. How much do you know? Orochimaru must have warned you. He too must have been worried because Kabuto was his trusted right-hand man, with locations, researches, all kind of things in Kabuto's head. To answer your question, I know what I need to know. Your right-hand deal with Orochimaru and other shady movements. The council will be told of this and the Uchihas won't be happy. They will be ready to guard and swarm this base. Well, you do have their dojutsu, which you gained through unbelievable means. Not to mention Shisui incident has not been forgotten. This is what Naruto meant by telling me that a civil war will happen in the village. And of course the villagers would not know about it. I'm also not happy with you. You tried to put some doubt in Itachi's heart about me. It failed, but you still tried. Itachi told you about that, huh? I just know, said Naruto. How are we gonna do this? You have something that's precious to me. And if anything happened, I will be pissed off. Massively so. Izumi was surprised that Naruto was so calm in this situation. She was scared, because this man behind her could kill her. He could do that. Danzo was a cold bastard, who just did not care. And she didn't want to die, she wanted to continue to live. She wanted to stay by his side, and take care of him. My path to leave this village has been blocked. I can't leave this village. Talk to your father to allow me to leave in peace. You can call that exile, said Danzo. Why would I do that now? Toru, said Danzo. As the man came and gave Danzo a sword, as he drove it through Izumi. As she fell to her knees, Danzo pulled the blade. As Izumi's eyes went wide, he stabbed her, as she clutched onto the wound in her stomach. As Izumi looked up towards Naruto's eyes, for once were fully open, and they were cold, wicked. Call your father here so that he can fully exile us, but we will be keeping her as insurance. As he threw a 3-pronged kunai at Naruto. As Naruto grabbed it, he didn't ask anything as he threw it down. As Minato appeared in a second, as he already saw the situation and understand it within seconds. Danzo want to be exiled, said Naruto. Minato frowned. He could flash towards Izumi and take her and leave, and Danzo wouldn't have anyone to use. Naruto would certainly go on a rampage afterwards. If he just called Anvu, he didn't know if Izumi would survive, and Naruto wouldn't be happy with that. And Danzo must knew that he would come, so he must have some traps laid up for him. One condition though, said Minato. What, said Danzo. Take Naruto instead. Izumi need to get treatment. But you can take Naruto, no one will pursue you. You're being officially exiled after all. But if you try to leave with Izumi, I'm not sure there's much we can do. Because of her state. Although surprised, Danzo did not show it. You know I still care about Konoha, he said. You won't do anything to Naruto because you don't want Konoha to lose a war. We are at war, that you cannot deny, and Naruto power cannot be denied as well. He will be a big help in the war. You of all people should know that, said Minato. Fine, but I'll be the one to seal off his chakra. I cannot trust you to do it. Once we have made it to a good place, I will free him. Minato stepped forward. Give her to me, he said. Danzo snapped his finger on one of his agents, flashed back Naruto holding a chain. It wasn't a normal chain, it was a mark, with chakra suppressors. Once Naruto was bound, Minato was able to take Izumi. As Minato vanished in a second, he knew what Naruto wanted. Minutes later, Minato breathed a sigh of relief. Izumi was gonna be alright. Fugaku and Jiraiya came in the office soon after. What is happening, Minato, said Fugaku. I'm hearing that Danzo is leaving along with his forces. I thought you would be executed. The Anvu even stopped this police force from doing anything, as the man was acting from orders from the Hokage. Your Anvus are telling me that he's been exiled, is that true? Said Jiraiya. Minato nodded. Yes, he said. Danzo was officially exiled from Konoha, from my order. He's never to set foot on Konoha or land the fire again. Should he be seen, he will be killed without question. Why, said Fugaku. Are you becoming so weak that— Watch it, Fugaku. I'm your friend, but I'm still the 4th Hokage, and I will not allow you to say whatever you want, simply because you don't understand my decision in all of this. Fugaku calmed himself. Explained then, he said. Izumi is currently in the hospital, having been stabbed by Danzo. Her condition was life-threatening, but she's fine now. Danzo demanded their survival for being exiled, so I granted it. Naruto is escorting them for as far as they want, said Minato. Fugaku could not understand this. Izumi was just one person. How could you let Danzo strong arm him like that? Minato, you do know that if given a chance to live, Danzo will come back to haunt you. You do understand he can cause damage to Konoha if allowed to move freely. What will you do if this decision cost you many life when you could have ended it by just sacrificing one life? Before Fugaku could say anything, Naruto appeared in a swirl of flames. He shut his mouth. If Naruto ever heard him say that Izumi wasn't worth it, the relationship would be dead. I thought you left with Danzo, Jiraiya said. That was a clone. I was busy with something else. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. What? Naruto did not respond as he turned towards Fugaku. We haven't talked since you returned from the dead, but I see you're alive and well. What are you gonna do, Naruto? I have finished forming the contract with the Kyuubi. Danzo is being watched. I am waiting until he leaves the fire country, and then I will go and confront him. I will leave nothing behind. What is this Kyuubi business are you talking about? The Kyuubi was separated into 2 parts, but both are equally powerful to fight against any other Bijou. I have bound myself to both of them, and will utilize them as summons in the war. Where's Izumi? Room 206, said Minato. As with that he was gone. In case you're wondering, he heard you, said Minato to Fugaku. I allowed him to leave because he had another plan. The Kyuubi will be making an appearance outside Fire Country, and Naruto will be controlling it. Other nations will hear about this and they will think twice. But the time for turning back is too late. In any case, we remove Danzo and add 2 more power in our ranks. Root is not needed when we have 2 Kyuubis. This will be useful in case we're not able to disable the 4 Jinchurikis. But guys, if you didn't subscribe right here, if what's the next person to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. But more for now, see you guys soon. Peace.